Hi, I'm Diana Yoakley. I'm a peaceful parenting coach and mom of three, and I'm delighted to give you the latest science backed research on child development, parenting, and to support you in showing up as the parent that you want to be. Welcome. Hi there, I'm Diana Yoakley, and welcome to Delight in Parenting, where we're going to explore how to create deeper connections with our children while navigating the challenges of modern parenting. Today, I'm really excited to dive into something that's been weighing heavily on my heart lately: the emotional lives of our boys. As a mom of three, including two boys, I've witnessed firsthand the unique struggles they face in today's world. Something's happening to our boys, and more of them are shutting down, exploding in anger, or disappearing into screens. While many girls are breaking barriers, which is wonderful, our boys are often breaking inside, drowning quietly in emotional isolation. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll explore why this is happening and, most importantly, what we as parents can do to reach our boys behind this mask. So, let me paint a picture that might feel familiar to you. Let's say your son comes home from school, barely mumbles a greeting, and immediately it disappears into his room or grabs a device. And when you ask about his day, you get a shrug or an irritated, fine. Attempts to connect are met with resistance, and sometimes seemingly small requests trigger disproportionate anger. And you might be wondering what happened to that sweet little boy who used to share his thoughts and feelings so freely. Where did he go? And more importantly, how do we reach him now? This emotional disconnection isn't just happening in your home. It's a pattern we're seeing across many families, and there's several reasons for this. First, let's talk about brain development. The adolescent brain is undergoing massive changes. The prefrontal cortex, which helps with impulse and control and decision making, is still developing. Meanwhile, the amygdala, which processes emotions, is highly active. This creates a perfect storm where boys feel intense emotions but often lack the ability to process or express them effectively. Added to that biological reality is the intense cultural pressure boys face. From a young age, they absorb messages about what it means to be a real man. Don't cry, don't show weakness, be tough, be independent. These messages come from everywhere: peers, media, sometimes even well meaning family members who tell them to man up or toughen up. And when our boys try to live up to these impossible standards, they often resort to what I call emotional masking, hiding their authentic feelings behind a facade of toughness, indifference, or even aggression. And over time, this masking becomes so habitual that boys can lose touch with their actual emotions. They might not even have the vocabulary to identify what they're feeling beyond fine or whatever. Digital influences, of course, compound these challenges. Many boys retreat into online spaces where they spend hours gaming or scrolling through content. And while these activities seem harmless on the surface, they often replace real human connection. And in some cases, boys encounter harmful online communities as well that reinforce these toxic ideas about masculinity. And the result that we get is boys who feel emotionally starved, unable to express vulnerability, and disconnected from themselves and eventually from others. But here's what I want you to remember: your son isn't broken, he's overwhelmed. And underneath that tough exterior or that indifferent shrug is a child who still needs your love, guidance, and connection, and maybe even more than ever now. So, before we dive into solutions, let's talk about some signs that your son might be struggling emotionally. These aren't just typical boy behaviors to dismiss, they're often calls for help. So, first, watch for emotional shutdown. If your once talkative son now responds with minimal words, avoids family activities, or seems perpetually bored or disinterested, he might be shutting down his emotions as a coping mechanism. Rage is another indicator. While everyone gets angry sometimes, pay attention if your son has frequent explosive outbursts over seemingly small issues. This often signals that he's struggling to process other emotions like hurt, fear, or disappointment. Anger becomes his default because it feels safer than vulnerability. Alpha posturing is something you might notice, especially around peers, behaviors where your son tries to dominate conversations, put others down, or takes unnecessary risks to prove himself. This usually stems from deep insecurity and the need to conform to these masculine ideals. Screen addiction is perhaps the most common warning sign if your son seems unable to detach from devices. prioritizes online interactions over real life relationships, or becomes unusually agitated when screen time is limited or reduced. This often indicates he's using digital spaces as an escape from emotional discomfort. Changes in sleep patterns, dropping grades, or abandoning activities he once enjoyed, or sudden shifts in friend groups can also signal emotional struggles. Remember, these behaviors aren't just your son being deliberately difficult. They're often his attempt to cope with feelings he doesn't understand or know how to express. And when we recognize these signs as communication rather than defiance, it completely shifts how we respond. So, what can we do? How can we teach our sons when they seem so distant or resistant? So, the answer lies in focusing on connection rather than control. Many parents with the best intentions try to address concerning behavior through stricter rules, more consequences, or increased monitoring, especially related to screens. But control focused approaches often backfire with boys, driving them further into emotional hiding. Instead, we need to build bridges. So here's some practical strategies that I want to walk you through to foster, deeper connections with your son. First, create safe spaces for authentic expression. Boys need to know they can share all their feelings, even the uncomfortable ones, without judgment or immediate problem solving from us. This might mean sitting quietly together, going for a drive, or engaging in a shared activity where conversation can happen more naturally when you're side by side. I remember when my older son was going through a particularly difficult time, our best conversations happened while driving in the car. Sometimes the distractions of nature and the fact that you're not making intimate eye contact while you're talking makes it easier for boys to open up. When your son shares something vulnerable, validate his feelings before anything else. Simple phrases like, that sounds really tough, or I can see why you'd feel that way. Show him that his emotions matter and are legitimate. Avoid dismissing feelings with phrases like, it's not that big of a deal, or you'll get over it. Model emotional vulnerability yourself. Our sons learn more from what we do than what we say. All children do. And when you're having a hard day, name your feelings. I'm feeling frustrated right now because work was really challenging today. It shows them that emotions are normal and can be expressed in healthy ways. This doesn't mean you're dumping your adult problems on your child, but using age appropriate sharing of feelings that demonstrate emotional literacy. So pay attention to your response when your son shows anger. Many parents react to a boy's anger with their own anger or immediate consequences, which teaches him that his emotion is unacceptable. Instead, stay calm and help him identify what might be beneath the anger. You can say something like, you seem really angry right now. I wonder if you're also feeling disappointed about what happened at school. Physical connection matters too. As boys grow, they often receive less physical affection, but the need for touch does not disappear. Regular hugs, a hand on the shoulder, or some playful roughhousing can maintain physical connection even as your son develops more independence. One of our most powerful connection tools is play. Playful parenting approaches can break through defenses and create moments of authentic connection. This might be playing video games together, occasionally, enjoying engaging in physical play like basketball or wrestling, or finding other activities that bring out your son's laughter and joy. Remember that play is a natural language of children. When words fail us, play can sometimes reach places in our child's heart that conversation can't. Listen more than you talk. Parents often fall into the trap of lecturing or giving advice when what their son really needs is just to feel heard. Practice listening without interrupting, without immediately offering solutions, and without judgment. Be curious about his world. Ask about his interests, even if they seem foreign to you. Whether it's a game or YouTube channel or a sport, showing some genuine interest in what matters to him builds connection. You don't have to love what he loves, but make the effort to understand why he loves it so immensely. Respect his need for privacy and independence while maintaining connection. Adolescence is a time when boys naturally begin to separate from parents and develop their own identity. This doesn't mean disconnection is inevitable. It just means connection might look different than it did when he was younger. Create family rituals that foster a sense of belonging, whether it's a weekly game night or special weekend breakfasts or holiday traditions. Rituals give boys an anchor of connection in their changing world. And finally, remember that connection isn't just built in big dramatic moments. It's nurtured in those small everyday interactions, that genuine smile when he enters the room, the inside jokes you share, and the way you remember details about his life and interests. When we prioritize connection over control, we create an environment where our sons feel safe to be their authentic selves, and we can build a bridge to the boy behind the mask. We can't talk about raising boys without addressing the elephant in the room, which is screens and digital media. Many parents I know feel that they're losing their sons to devices, and the concern is legitimate. Research should suggest that excessive screen time can worsen emotional disconnection by reducing face to face interactions and exposing boys to content that can be harmful to their developing sense of self. But simply banning screens isn't the answer. Instead, we want to take a more balanced approach. Stay involved in your son's digital world. Know what apps and games he uses, who he interacts with online, and the kind of content he consumes. So it's not about surveillance of everything, but about being an informed guide. Have regular non-judgmental conversations about online content. If your son is following certain influencers or participating in online communities, ask some curious questions like, what do you like about that channel? What do they talk about? What do you think about those ideas? And having these conversations can help develop his critical thinking skills and give you insights into the messages he's absorbing. Then establish some tech-free zones and times in your home. Maybe it's at the dinner table or car rides under 20 minutes or an hour before bedtime. These boundaries can create space for real connection between the people in your home. We also want to model healthy tech habits ourselves. Our children notice when we're constantly distracted by our own devices. So model healthy use of screens yourself. Most importantly, ensure that the real world offers your son what he's seeking online, which is connection, validation, and excitement, and a sense of competence. Many boys retreat into digital spaces because these basic needs aren't being met in their daily lives. So, if we want our sons to engage less with screens, we need to ensure their offline life is rich with meaningful connection, more appropriate challenges for their age group, and opportunities to feel capable and valued, contributor to the family or to their friends group. So, as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with this. The boy you're raising today is the man who will shape tomorrow. By focusing on emotional connection now, you're not just solving current behavioral problems, you're laying the foundation for his lifelong emotional well being. Our sons aren't broken. They're not trying to make our lives difficult. They're doing the best they can with the tools that they have in a world that often sends confusing messages about what it means to be male. When we build bridges of connection, when we reach the boy behind the mask, we give our sons permission to be fully human, to experience all their emotions, and to ask for help when they need it, and to form deep, meaningful relationships. You have more influence than you realize. Your presence, your patience, your willingness to connect rather than control, these shape your son's emotional life in profound ways. So, thank you for joining me today. If you found this helpful, please share it with other parents who might be struggling to connect with their sons. And remember, you're not alone on this journey. We're all in this together. Until next time, this is Diana Yoakley with Delight in Parenting, reminding you that the most important work you'll ever do is within the walls of your own home.